Bill, Doris, ex-TV Newsy, Allison Morrow, ex-TV Newsy, here to talk about journalism around a particular drug that has set off media hysteria because Joe Rogan is talking about it. Because of the YouTube community guidelines, if you want us to actually say the word, you're going to have to go over to watch our video we did last night about it on ROKFIN. And the link is in the description. And there we can just let it fly. We can say all kinds of words, including what we're not going to say here, but we're just going to let you figure it out. Okay. This is the horse version. I have 2 horses. I use this as an antiparasitic so that my horses will excrete, this would be the nice word, roundworms and whatnot. This is not what I give my horses because this is the human version of the drug. Okay.
Mhm.
This is for humans. This is for horses. But Bill, I had this revelation about this after watching the media hoopla over Joe Rogan discussing this and our video that we did last night about how coverage of this really is making us dumber. It is really making us all dumber because they keep saying it's a horse drug. It's a horse drug when clearly I just showed you that there's a human version and there's a horse slash livestock version of it.
Mhm.
Okay. And then they go, after they say this a million times that it's a horse drug, it's a horse drug, it's a horse drug, then they go, and we don't know why people are going to the feed stores to get it. We don't know. And it's like, oh, well, maybe it's because you told everybody it's a freaking livestock drug and there's no human component to it. And all people are like, well, hell, I better go to the feed store to get that drug. And it hit me. What do they think people are going to do if they constantly inaccurately describe it as if it's only a livestock medication? So that's my first point. Before we watch this Joe Rogan video and we talk a little bit about the blowback that, of course, once again, Rogan says something. God forbid that the media go after somebody in the CIA or Congress or whatever, the way they
Or
go
the
after Rogan.
CDC.
CDC,
Yeah.
FDA,
Mhm.
Fauci, whatever. No, it's when Rogan says something, they're like, "What?" Could you imagine how different the world would be if they looked at the 3-letter agencies and their buddies in the tech companies the same way they look at Rogan? Seriously, can you imagine how different the world would be?
I want to know why Joe Rogan has not announced his candidacy for the 2024 nomination, because this guy his words have more weight than Biden's do. It just absolutely blows my mind how bad I'm not the biggest Joe Rogan fan. I like a lot of his content and I like a lot of the guests he has. But as far as Joe Rogan himself, can't say I'm the biggest fan of him, but this guy will say jump and people will say how high, or they'll say, I'm not jumping for you because you're this, and this. And it blows my mind.
So you think let's just take him off the moderator stage for the debates and let's just put him on the stage as a candidate. That's what you're saying.
Well, I mean, the Rock is talking about a 2024 or 2028 run. That's where we're at. We're getting
Why not?
celebrities. Yeah, it's where, I mean, the last celebrity president we had did a lot better than this president, and it hurts my heart to say that.
Okay, I want to say real fast too. I don't think I gave this disclaimer yet. If you work for YouTube and you're watching this video, we are not endorsing any treatment for COVID-19. Okay, we are just talking about the crap for journalism that is passing right now regarding this particular treatment and the inaccurate way they're describing it. Okay, we're not endorsing the treatment. Let's listen to Joe Rogan, shall we?
Go.
Hello, friends. So I got back from the road Saturday night, feeling very weary. I had a headache and I just felt run down. And just to be cautious, I separated from my family, slept in a different part of the house. And throughout the night, I got fevers and sweats, and I knew what was going on. So I got up in the morning, got tested, and turns out I got COVID. So we immediately threw the kitchen sink at it, all kinds of meds, monoclonal antibodies, Ivermectin, Z-Pak, prednisone, everything. And I also got an NAD drip and a vitamin drip, and I did that 3 days in a row. And so here we are on Wednesday, and I feel great.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Hopefully YouTube will allow for that to be out. Considering all the mainstream media outlets are covering this. Okay, YouTube. So just letting you know,
Mhm.
you're letting them cover this. So you should let us.
Yep.
Bill, what I get out of this is Rogan is like, we tried a bunch of stuff. Tried a bunch
Mhm.
of stuff. I feel a lot better. I think the thing that I'm curious about with the reaction to this, not, not simply just because of what we discussed earlier, which is just like the obsession with this guy whenever he says
Mhm.
something that veers away from, the acceptable corporate media narrative, but also just the atrocious way that as they're attacking him for this, they're describing the I word that he said he took and
Mhm.
how inaccurate their coverage of this is. So let's talk about that for a second.
First and foremost, I think it's very important to point out that there are thousands of journalists and millions of trolls online, whether it's a Twitterverse, YouTube, Instagram, it doesn't matter, that were just waiting for this moment. They had their finger on the trigger, getting ready to pull it, just waiting for Joe Rogan to say, hey, I got COVID. And then the firing squad let loose. So that's first and foremost. There were people, and those kind of people are the ones that really disgust me. I wish we were on ROKFIN so I could let it fly. But those people are just absolutely disgusting. And they were waiting. They just could not wait for Rogan to get COVID. And I probably am going to go out on a limb a little bit here. And there's probably some of them that are like, oh man, or they'll even make comments saying, good. Now I hope you die from it, you anti-vaxxer. So that's there's a contingent of people out there who had that mindset. That's first and foremost. Second of all, piggybacking on what you just said, the media coverage of the use of one of the alternative means of dealing with COVID, the I word, the media coverage is just god awful, and it's so slanted, it's so BS, it's very in your face. And we're going to talk, I'm probably going to talk about the Hills Rising show. They actually covered this morning as well, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. But this is what led me to you, was like, not only did Rogan have COVID and he made some controversial statements depending on which side of the fence you're on. So the predators pounced, obviously, and now the media is pouncing as well. And they always push this narrative. The first words out of their mouth is, this stuff's for horses, it's not for humans. And it just makes the public dumber. They are misinforming the public on purpose.
Mhm. And they're just repeating
The
the
same
government
narrative.
talking points.
Yeah. Mhm.
Government talking points, right?
Mhm.
Repeating
Yep.
the bureaucratic talking points. The FDA released its latest public health campaign. The FDA, which doesn't care apparently if you eat 16,000 potato chips and die of heart disease, the number one killer in the United States. They don't, they spend a lot of
Oh.
time on this as a livestock drug.
Mhm.
And so they're like, you're not a horse, don't take it,
Yeah.
which once again, completely misleading. If you
Mhm.
want to debate its efficacy for COVID, have at it. But to
Yeah.
just label it a livestock drug is just totally a lie. And no wonder
Mhm.
people don't believe it. It's once again coverage of COVID that's preaching to the choir and sending the skeptics, you know, off like what the heck is going on here, and they should be asking what the heck is going on here. And then when anyone's skeptical, the media
Mhm.
then pushes back like, these people are just, what's wrong with them, why won't they get with it, like I just don't understand.
Or
It's like, because every time you talk about it, you
Mhm.
oversimplify it. Your coverage is so inaccurate that like I said, if you want to debate the efficacy, please. But
Mhm.
just labeling it a livestock drug is so stupid. This is NBC News. Joe Rogan
It
says he has COVID, took widely discredited drug, won't say the name. You can read it on the screen. The
Mhm.
US Food and Drug Administration last month urged people to stop believing misinformation claiming the livestock treatment would help cure COVID-19.
And then
Dude,
at the
you guys,
and
I just showed you, okay? This is the human, this is the livestock. To just continue saying that everyone is shooting this up, whatever hole they have, is wrong.
And then they'll have this little disclaimer at the very end of the news story after you've already turned the channel or after you've already swiped to the next story. They'll have this little disclaimer at the end. By the way, there's also a human version. Next story.
Right.
Yeah.
But you know what? NBC doesn't even do that. They talk
Oh.
about people who overdose with it, saying basically, if you take
Yeah.
the livestock treatment, which of course, if all they tell you is that it's a livestock treatment and you're somebody who's like, well, I better go get that thing at the store because and so then you get,
Mhm.
you mainstream media are aggravating this situation by telling people this is it. Okay.
Yep.
And also, Bill, they don't tell you that doctors are the ones prescribing this, actual
Mhm.
doctors that you rarely, if ever, see that. That's not anywhere in this article here about, it's just like talks about the idiots who are self-medicating with this drug intended for horses. Okay. That's
Mhm.
the way that they discuss it. And then they don't talk about anything regarding MDs who are actually
Mhm.
prescribing it for the disease. So you just think it's just a bunch of people shooting this horse paste when there's actually doctors prescribing a human version of it. Again, totally inaccurate, and it aggravates the situation, and they're
Mhm.
culpable in my opinion. And
Oh,
they
what
see themselves as totally innocent. They're culpable in this.
Yeah, if somebody was to go and sue some of these media outlets, there's a good chance that some of them would see a nice little payoff. They probably wouldn't win. They'd have to sign a disclaimer or a non-disclosure agreement, and they would get a payday. We that one we covered last night on ROKFIN. Oh my God, I wish I could sue them, not for the misinformation, but for the terrible journalism. But you
Yeah.
get you get what I'm saying. I mean, they're so misrepresenting this. They have framed this as, oh, all these conservative and right wingers and anti-vaxxers are taking this horse paste as a treatment for COVID. And that's not it. That is the furthest thing from the case. They're just trying to push the Biden narrative.
Yeah, well, or the Fauci, or
Or the Fauci
whoever's really,
narrative
or
or
the
whatever.
Pfizer narrative. I mean, who
Yeah.
knows who's really pulling the strings right now? Do I
Yeah.
think Biden even has the wherewithal at this point? I mean,
Oh,
I think you.
he doesn't know
No,
where he is.
I'm gonna keep my opinion to myself on anyway. I'm gonna go back to the article. Okay.
Yes.
Um. Okay. So yeah, but you know what you said about how they usually end, or they'll end sometimes with saying, "Oh yeah, by the way, there is a human version, but you know."
Mhm.
Whatever. Well, here, of course, this is how they end this, because this is how they like leave the stinger.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not a doctor, Rogan said, according to the BBC in April. I'm not a respected source of information, even for me. So
Mhm.
that's their. So nowhere did they talk about actual doctors discussing this as a treatment. They just basically talk about people taking the horse paste, and then what Fauci and the FDA say, and then Rogan calling himself an idiot at the end. That's it.
Mhm.
That's the
Yeah.
coverage of it. Okay, great. Thanks so much. I learned nothing. If you like wine or coffee or both, here are two of my sponsors that help you support my work and have something great to drink while you watch my videos. The first is AllisonWinePromo.com, Allison with 1L winepromo.com. You get 50% off some of my favorite Argentinian Malbecs and 50% off shipping. One of these bottles comes from the third highest vineyard in the world. They use no flavoring or dyes, no filtering, and no excess chemicals. But if coffee is more your beat, then check out twinenginecoffee.com/Allison, twinenginecoffee.com/Allison. These are all Nicaraguan coffees. They keep many of the jobs local because they grow, select, roast, and package in Nicaragua. They are USDA certified organic, shade grown, and high altitude. So again, twinenginecoffee.com/Allison, AllisonWinePromo.com. Have a great glass of coffee, a great glass of wine, and support free speech, whatever you're drinking.